Sorry folks, testing 1 2 3, there we go. So now everybody should be able to hear me. Bit of a glitch, but what can I expect after the mess we've had trying to put this together this morning? So I just wish to welcome everybody together to, you can hear me now okay, Andrea? Yep, can. Okay, right. So, and one of the issues is that it appears that the live feed on Facebook just stopped. So, but this is an important discussion that we're having today, because this is about the family court, and it's about the decisions that they make in family court that affect parents. And the person I'm going to speak to today has had a horrific experience with the family court and the way it has impacted her life and the life of her children. It's a sad story, but it happens a little too often, I think. And there needs to be something said and done in order to change the family court so that it's far more equitable and fairer, particularly where there's issues around domestic violence involved. Now, it often appears to me that there are many people who are violent and abusive towards their children, and the family court, for whatever reason, sees it appropriate to be able to return their child to the perpetrator of the violence. In this particular case with Andrea, the children were removed and she hasn't seen them now for a few years. And we're going to have a conversation with her about how she experiences that, the impact it has on her and the children by not having contact with her. But before we get there, I wish to provide you a bit of a snapshot of what it was like for the children when they were first removed. So this is a video that kind of went viral some years ago, and it's important to watch this. It is impactful and it is extremely distressing.
I can't help you, darling. I'm trying my best. I can't do anything. Take a deep breath, my man. Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath.
I can't.
I know.
I don't want to go.
Can you at least get him some slippers for his feet? What do you mean you tried?
We tried to get him dressed.
Well, can you at least take them in the car? It's freezing cold out here. He's got no shoes on.
I don't want to go in the
I know,
car.
sweetheart. I know. But
Just so you know, we're also wearing body-worn video.
yep, good.
Okay, so
Yep.
it's being recorded as well.
Good. But mine will be unedited for, future court
We
cases.
don't edit ours at all. It's all raw footage.
You should give this to the judge and see how much it's affecting her life.
Okay, sweetheart.
We can't do this. You don't have to. That's not the boss of the world. And the judge isn't the boss of the world either.
Don't speak.
Now, this video goes on for 16 minutes, and we'll give a link to it at the bottom of our Facebook page, and I'm sure Michael will see to that. But I've watched it a few times, and I must confess, I find it extremely distressing to see these children pleading with the police to have them remain and not be removed from their mother. And we are fortunate today because we have Andrea with us, the mother of these children, who can talk to us about what this was like for her. So welcome, Andrea. I'm just wondering if we could start with what was it like for you to watch that again?
It was very traumatizing. I hadn't watched that since the day that they were taken 2 years ago now. Yeah, so the first time I actually saw that is when it was obviously went viral. So yeah, very traumatizing again for me. Yeah.
I find it upsetting. I find it extremely upsetting to watch myself, and I watched it a couple of times now, and I just think that what those kids, your daughter is extremely articulate child, and she was expressing herself in the most forthright way that you could imagine. I mean, she's asking, why don't you listen to us? Why don't you hear what we want? Why is it always about what, in this case, what the father wanted? So can you give us an overview of the background story to this, I guess, and what that's been like for you?
So basically, coming up to my children being removed from me by the police. To Australia with the pregnancy with my third child at the time. Due to all of the stress, my major depression that I was suffering at the time, I was actually suicidal by the time I returned, and I was 6 months pregnant with my third. I was underweight. My third child, obviously, she was also underweight during the pregnancy. She was not healthy. They didn't expect her to make it through pretty much. She had a hole in her heart. Yeah, but as I said, once I returned back to Australia, I couldn't bring myself to going back to the domestic violence, the way that he was treating me. I was throughout the relationship, he had a number of affairs, and those affairs were actually, those people were actually living in the same house as me. Yeah, so it wasn't a nice situation to be in. I did take a few times for me to leave. I left a few times, and then obviously returned back just due to help with his anger management and psychological, all the rest of that. He would attend a couple of sessions, and then pretty much as soon as he got me back, he would stop and everything would just go back to the way it was. Yeah. Yeah, with that, just moving to Colombia as well. When I left him, I obviously found that a message from another woman that he'd been having an affair with whilst I was back in Australia. He settled us back in Australia happily. And then he remained in Jakarta where he was working at the time. Anyway, as I was saying, I found a message on his phone from a woman that he was having an affair with. With that, ended up having a breakdown, ended up in a very abusive argument with him, where he actually was very abusive and threw objects towards me. And at the time, she also copped it. So he ended up locking me out of my house and calling the police, saying that I was threatening to kill him when I wasn't. I was simply just trying to get attention for all of everything that was going on, because I just had enough. So yeah, ended up in hospital. And then whilst I was in hospital that same night, he came in, because I was obviously feeding my youngest one, breastfeeding her. Came back at midnight and he told me he took a job in Colombia, and he would be returning back. He'd be going back to Jakarta to get ready to go over to Colombia that next day. Pretty much discharged myself from hospital. Well, he came and got me, got the kids ready for school, dropped them off to school, and dropped my ex-husband back to the airport so he could go back to Jakarta to flee, I guess. Then within 10 days, I wasn't able to handle, and I ended up in a hospital in Brisbane for my health, just because it had deteriorated. And I spent 8 weeks in hospital with my baby, and my eldest two ended up being looked after by my ex-husband's mother. And from there, it pretty much just grew from there, because I started standing up to myself, for myself, I guess. Yeah. I can't hear you, sorry.
What happened? What happened? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yep. What happened when you did start to stand up for yourself?
He obviously started becoming physically abusive, because he knew that I was getting a lot of more dependence back. Yeah. Pretty much,
And
he just
how did you go about getting your independence back then, Andrew? What did you do?
Well, as I said, I self-admitted myself into hospital once I had that breakdown. And whilst in hospital, I attended a heap of programs. They put me through a heap of programs to learn how to become independent. I mean, yeah, you know what I mean? To be able to focus on my health, become independent again, just more or less learn how to deal with my anxiety, my stress, my depression. At the same time, they also provided me what they call transcranial magnetic stimulation, which pretty much helps with people that have, because of my stress and depression and everything that I went through, all of my hormones in my brain pretty much had just gone, and it pretty much increased the chemicals in my brain again for me to be able to function again because I wasn't able to function at all, really. I couldn't make simple decisions. Actually, yeah, when I went into hospital, I ended up sleeping for about a week and a half straight because I was just exhausted after so many years of having to more or less fend for myself and try to raise three children without his support and trying to keep up and support him as well with all of his problems and the way that he was. Yeah.
So can you run us through a little bit about what that day that we recorded that video that we just showed, but what that day was like for you, and how someone who's in that situation manages the situation? I guess manages also their well-being, given that psychologically and emotionally you've been abused by this bloke for many years, and then suddenly you get this traumatic event on top of all of that. And I think one of the things I do admire you so much about, Andrea, is the way you have been able to survive through all of that. And just wondering if you could tell us how you do that.
Well, at the time when the police came to the door, I was pretty much in shock. I think I went into survival mode. I sort of had to sort of shut down all of my emotion to be able to deal with what was going on. But at the same time, I was numb throughout the whole experience. I couldn't think straight. I had to pack my kids' bags. I had to, yeah, it was hard for me, like really, like, and then my kids, I couldn't even really support them because they weren't allowed to be near me. The children, well, that police pretty much just took them straight from me out the front until I could pack their bags and get them ready. Yeah, it's hard to explain because, as I said, I just mentally shut down. I was, yeah.
Did you have adequate support? I know your mum's with you and stuff.
I had
Do you
no,
think you had adequate support or not?
I didn't have support at all. I
Really?
had pretty much once the police had finished there with the kids, taking the kids, I was just left with absolutely no support. I had nobody ring me up, nobody check on me. Um, I, obviously had my parents when I came back, because it actually wasn't my parents that were there. It was actually family friends that I was staying with at the time. So yeah, they were also going through the whole stage as well. It wasn't just affecting me, it was affecting my mum, it was affecting my dad.
Mm.
But all of us were in and out of hospital because of all of the trauma. We were all just, it it was very traumatic experience. Like the federal police even came back here. I was actually trying to get away from the situation because everybody was saying, just go, he can't have your kids, like this decision isn't right. What they made, the second judge made the decision that they go, the first judge didn't. He said that they remain with me. I have full custody of the children. And then obviously my ex-husband, he appealed against the decision because he simply wanted to take everything from me, including my children, and leave me with nothing. And that's pretty much what he said if I would started standing up for myself when I did start standing up for myself. And that's what he achieved, pretty much because he's, I guess, financially able to do it with his position.
I mean, and
And
there
his
have been
ability to
indications.
be able to get away with whatever he wants. So
There have been indications, though, that the children are not being cared for either, where they are at the moment. Is that right?
that's right. To my understanding, my children are being raised by nannies from the very day that he received or had my children. He's had nannies looking after them. To my understanding at the moment, he's renting 2 apartments. He's living in one with his partner that he was with when I was in Colombia for the 3 months that I was there, whilst he organised everything to pretty much do what he's done. to take the kids off of me. So I was actually living with the lady that he's with now, in Colombia. So yeah, now he is renting a unit with his new partner, well, of whatever amount of years now it is. He's been with her while still married to me. Um, a daughter that they've had whilst he was going through the court case trying to get my children off of me. So he has a new daughter with her and another one on the way. And the second apartment, getting to it, the second apartment now, my children are in the second apartment with nannies looking after them.
So, if we boil this down, I guess it just appears that a violent and abusive and controlling man, has chosen a way to further abuse you in the most severe possible way, apart from physical or murder you, I guess. But he's chosen to abuse you in the most severe way by simply removing your child overseas, so that you will not ever have access to them as long as they are with him. So, and I believe you've actually contacted the Attorney General in the previous government, I guess, about this.
Yes.
What has been the response from any contact you've made with government officials?
Anybody that I've got in contact with, they've pretty much shut me down. They said they say they can't do anything about the situation, because I'm guessing because of, I don't know, the Hague Convention. I don't know, just the way that it's been, the way he went about getting the kids. And the moment that I mentioned Hague Convention, they just pretty much shut me down. I've been through every person you can think of to get attention, and just nobody will listen. So,
and I think it's fair to say too that if there's anybody that is watching this who has a connection in the government and can offer some practical legal advice around which stage to take next, could you please contact us here at the Child Protection Party, simply at admin@childprotection.party, and we will contact Andrea and let her know. So where to from here for you, Andrew? You've got a sense of a direction or even a sense of hope as to how this may be resolved?
I honestly, I don't really know. I don't know. As I said, I try everything, and I can't see how my children are going to come back, because I've tried everything. I've even I've asked my ex-husband to send them over for holidays. Every holiday that comes up, I ask if we can arrange something, whether I go over there or he send the kids over to me, and it just ends up that he says no either way.
And I guess one of the stumbling blocks is that for there to be any legal intervention, it's kind of about negotiating through some international laws. And my understanding is that that the Hague Convention doesn't have an agreement with the country in which he's now living. So even if the Hague Convention was possible to advocate for you at a ambassadorial level, it's kind of not possible just simply because where he's living at the moment. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, where he's living at the moment, there's no Hague Convention, and even if we did go with the Hague Convention, again, we can't afford it. We've spent all of our money on the 18 months of fighting to keep the children here. We just simply can't afford to fight anymore.
Yeah, this is another thing too, Andrew, that we often come across, and that is the person who seems to have the most money is often the winner in the family court. And clearly, I guess that's the case with you, even though you had one magistrate who agreed with you at one level, and then the next time you went back to court, you had another who simply made what is we can determine to be a terrible decision. I mean, I fail to understand, and this is the thing I wrestle with around all of this, is that how can a magistrate possibly agree with the notion that it is in the best interest of the children to be with the father who is blatantly abusive? Can you get your head around any of that?
No, I can't. I look like when it came to that second judge making a decision that was meant to be a 3-day trial. It was taken down to probably about a 1.5 all up. She'd made a decision there and then that my children were going back to the country that they were going to, Colombia, without even listening to my side of the story or anything like that. Yeah.
Do you know?
I
Do you have a sense
can't
as
understand
to
it why a person, like as I said, I was forced to go back to Colombia once I was settled in Australia. Obviously, when I left him and I said I wasn't returning, he got his mum actually to ensure that I went back to Colombia. And whilst I was there, I obviously wasn't receiving the help that I needed for my mental health. I was supposed to be seeing a psychiatrist whilst I was there, which he promised would be available if I returned back to Colombia. But obviously when I got there, it wasn't arranged. It was just another little control thing that he does and way of getting what he wants. Pretty much he got me there to arrange, I think they were migrant visas. And also I think he remarried me as well over there to try to make out that I was a Colombian person to make us migrants, I guess. But as soon as he got those migrant visas arranged, he organised a one-way flight back to Australia for the children and I. We were that migrant visa. We were only in Colombia for 3 more days, I think. Then he had us back to Australia and settled us back in Australia, and that's when he went with applying for the Hague Convention.
If mental well-being was one of his arguments, your mental well-being was one of his arguments, I'm wondering why people didn't work out that perhaps the mental well-being was, or the psychiatric problems, whatever they may have been for you, why didn't someone work out that they may have been because you're in a violent relationship?
I'm not sure. My psychologist or psychiatrist that I was seeing at the time, before I was forced to go back to Colombia, she knew exactly what was going on. She knew what my ex-husband was like, and she didn't want me to go back at all. Nor did I want to go back. But and as I said, the only way that she would allow for me to go back there was to ensure that I had all of the support to keep myself well, to be able to look after myself and look after my children. So yeah,
it's just horrifying. So what sort of response, what would you like people to do for you? There'll be quite a few thousand people that'll eventually watch this video. What is the key message, I guess, that you would like them to take away from your story?
Oh gosh, that people, I don't know, like they need to look at the whole situation. Like just because, like in pictures, or just because one person is financially able to keep everything, going, just because somebody looks happy and they are dressed well and everything like that, and it doesn't mean that they're not being affected, sort of thing.
Mm.
Like,
Mm. I think that's a really good point, because you don't look like you're bedraggled or you don't look mentally unwell. You look like you're coping. Then that is often not true, is it? Because you can mask all of that stuff, I guess.
that's
And
like
yeah,
even
and come across completely different to the way that you're actually feeling.
that's right. Every day is a struggle for me. Like since my children have been removed, even before my children were removed, I was constantly, as I said, in and out of hospitals to keep my mental health stable. Um, Now, as I said, being 2 years now, I've been in and out of hospital still for mental health, to keep my mental health well, getting treatment. Um, I will admit I have tried to commit suicide a couple of times due to the way that I feel and just not being able to
Mm.
face days. Because of it's just daily struggle for me, not having my children with me constantly, being in surroundings where my children were with me. I get continuous flashbacks. um, yeah, it's never ever easy for me.
How do you think?
It's
Do you have a sense as to how your mental well-being would be if the children were in your care?
If the children were still in my care, I I would still be working. I haven't been able to work since they were gone. I've probably worked 6 months out of the last 2 years, um, due to my anxiety, my depression, my post traumatic stress, just being able to socialize with people. It's very difficult for me. I am a personal care worker. So, yeah, it's yeah, as I said, so if I had my children with me, I'd obviously, when I had my children with me, I was flat out, I was busy. I worked, 4 days a week, 3 or 4 days a week whilst my kids were at school. And then I ran around and looked after them after school activities, everything like that. Um, I'd be, yeah, I'd be managing a lot better, obviously, if I had my children with me.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Did can you tell me? There's one thing that I was puzzled about, and that was whether or not child protection services were ever involved in your case. Can you talk about that for a bit?
I haven't had any support.
No involvement from child protection services, from DHS or
Um,
whatever.
well, through the courts, there was the Child Protection Women's, I think it was the authorities, the Children's and Women's Authority, through the courts. But as I said, as soon as the decision was made and the kids were removed from me, I have absolutely had no support
So
whatsoever.
so they became involved because the matter was before the family court. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So there was no independent inquiry from the Department of Child Protection or whatever they are where you are. So I guess the reason why I asked that question was that if for some people the child safety or Department of Child Protection are involved, then they often present a case to the department as to who perhaps in their view should have access to this child. And I guess I was concerned that they weren't involved because it meant then that no one third party within the government was offering a report on the abuse that you had suffered and how inappropriate it would be to place a child with the abuser. You know what I mean?
Sorry, sorry, I've
Well,
lost.
if well, I guess if child protection services were involved, as helpful as unhelpful as they often are,
Mm.
they could have written a report saying that he was abusive, and that they
They
could have
didn't.
recommended. Yeah,
No, they didn't.
yeah.
There
So
was
no,
nothing throughout all of the courts. Nobody questioned him. his health or anything like that, whereas they knew exactly what was going on with me. They knew all about my history. They knew, my, as I said, my major depression, my anxiety, my post-traumatic stress, everything. Whilst in the courts, we asked that he be assessed, and they shut us down. They would not do anything we asked to try to prove that he wasn't, a fit parent. He
So,
never looked after my
so you're
children
saying
at all, really, when
that
I
the
was with
target,
him. He was full
yeah,
carer.
the target was you, and that they
Yep.
never questioned whether or not he was a fit father.
Never,
So
never.
this was all about mother
He
blaming.
he pretty much said to me, he said, "You're going to lose the children because of your mental health. That's going to be the reason why you lose your children." Um, and that's, yeah. So that's
All right.
pretty
So
much the way it went.
okay. So he used the mental health card in order
Yep.
for you not to have, for him to punish you for being the parent of these children.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now, Andrew, look, I just want to thank you for being a part of this live feed for us from the Child Protection Party. And I know that there are lots of people, we've got quite a few messages here, and people are asking. Thanks, Bob, for your questions too, just in relation to should Human Rights and Discrimination Act protect families in that regard? One would hope so, but they don't. I'm sorry. They don't. The law's an ass. What can I say? And in Andrea's case, I guess the law particularly didn't take into consideration the fact that they were returning children to a male who was using domestic violence or coercive control in order to make himself feel better about his shallow and inadequate world. So,
Yeah. So
Andrew, look,
I just have to say,
yeah,
I just have to
go on.
say, I just wanted to say what my children are going through now.
Yep.
They are going through exactly what I went through when I was with him. As I said, had to completely shut out my family, no communication with my family. And that's the same. Like I've encouraged when I can communicate with my kids, which is very rarely. I've said that they are welcome to message me, call me anytime, day or night. And I've noticed I can communicate, as I said, my communication is through WhatsApp when I can communicate with them. I check my WhatsApp every day and I see that my eldest daughter, she will check 3 or 4 times, but there will never be a phone call. There will never be a message from them. And I believe it's because they are going through what I went, whereas if I communicated with anybody, I'd be put down. I'd be,
You'd be punished.
just very much punished to communicate with anybody outside of that relationship, like with
And
him.
I guess that's a really interesting point, isn't it? I mean, it's a primary point too, because we need to consider what is happening for these children living with this man who now has got a new partner, another child, another one on the way. So they're going to become less significant, I guess, to him over time, aren't they? They're going to be not as important anymore, if they ever were, but they're going to become even less important.
Yeah. The only reason that he's got my children is because he knows that's the last bit of control that he's got over me. And he knows, as I said, I've tried every way to see my children go there, even though I don't feel safe going there. I've offered and I've been turned down by both him and his mother. The last school holidays, before that, they're in school holidays right now for 7 weeks. And I've tried every single way of communication. I've tried talking to my daughter and asked if I can talk to her father whilst on the phone. And he has 3 times that I've asked, he said he does not want to talk to me. He does not want to have anything to do with me. He doesn't want to have anything to do with it anymore. Yeah, because he knows that if I go over there, the children will not come back with me. and he knows if the children come back over here, they won't want to go back.
Yep.
And yeah, so he has pretty much, as I said, a number of times refuses to allow either way for us to see each other because
Okay.
he
Look,
knows it's that control.
thanks very much. Just stay online. Don't sign out. I'll have a chat to you at the end of this this feed. So, look, thanks, Andrea, very much for being with us. I really do appreciate it, and I know it takes a lot of courage, and I know you're very nervous about doing all of this, and I want to thank you. There's lots of messages. I'd like you to, if you've got a chance, just get to our Facebook page and respond to some of the messages that you might see there. Over time, there will be more. So thanks very much, Andrea, for being with us today. If you've got any questions or any queries, or there are comments, helpful comments that you'd like to make about what has happened to Andrea, please let us know here on our Facebook page, or if you're watching us on YouTube, could you please subscribe to our channel and to let us know what you think about this particular feed, this particular issue, and if you've got some suggestions that are helpful, let us know as well. I'd just like to again thank Andrea for being with us. It takes a lot of courage to do what she's done today, and she needs to be supported, and her children need to be supported as well. Thanks everybody. Take care, look after yourselves, and more importantly, be safe.